over your head. I don't believe I've seen that one before.
Well, that's one of my favorite pictures. It's a photograph of a statue of Lincoln that is in New Jersey in front of the Essex County Courthouse. The statue is done by Goodson Baldwin, who did the heads of the 4 presidents out in South Dakota. But this one of Lincoln, I like particularly because it is not on a pedestal. It is right on the ground, and the youngsters like to come up and sit on his hat or sit on his knee, pat him on the cheek, and really make a friend of him.
Isn't there a special inscription there on the lower left-hand corner?
Well, that's something else. That's a photograph of a short statement that Lincoln once made for a friend as to what his definition was of democracy. This is what it says: "As I would not be a slave," and he underscored slave, "so I would not be a master," and he underscored master. Then he said, "This expresses my idea of democracy. Whatever differs from this to the extent of the difference is no democracy. As far as I know, that's the simplest and best definition of democracy and the complete answer to the totalitarian. Totalitarian doesn't want to be a slave, but he's perfectly willing to be the master of somebody else to be his slave. And until he has reached the point that he neither wants to be a slave nor a master, he hasn't caught Lincoln's idea of what democracy really is. So I have this here in my chambers and often show it to young people who come in to visit me.
Well, I'm glad, sir, that you remind...
Cut off. He says, "I'm glad, sir, that you reminded us of that." I have the full interview on another disc, which, if you're interested, we could show it back at the hotel.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I have the thing. You know, so his Parkinson's disease finally took over, and he passed away on October 28, 1964, in Washington. And just to say that, you know, Harold Hitz Burton, as you've heard, he was an attorney, a mayor, a senator, a justice, a husband, a father, and a grandfather. He never failed to make a deeply warm and lasting positive impact on those whose lives he touched. Thank you. Thank you, all professional speakers. I'm so impressed how much time you spent pulling together your presentations. They really were excellent. Chills. I remember Harold and Selma coming to dinner at our house long after he had really been incapacitated with Parkinson's, and he could barely speak. Selma spoke and was so gracious and lovely. He didn't say anything really about her, but you can imagine she was really a partner and just a fabulous woman and very bright, intelligent woman. We're going to have a tour in about a half an hour, but I wanted to introduce to you Campbell Grove, who is here in the Swiss community and is the president of the Swiss Benevolent Society, which is the society that both John Hitz, one conceived of and the other put into action, modeled on the society that was already established in New York back then. But I want to say one thing. We have someone else on our roster, Simone Sock, who can't be here with us. She's a wonderful, gracious woman who all of her life, all of her adult life here in Washington, she has spent very involved in the Swiss Society and other community efforts, including studying John Hitz, all the Hitz family, but John Hitz. And it came to my attention many years ago that when she called my father and wanted some documents, she was putting some documents together and wanted to know more about the family, the Volta Bureau, and so on. And it was just a vague memory. But when we were doing this, her name came up again, and she's in her 80s now. And we were going to have her come and speak because she has a real flavor for what it was like back in the time of John Hitz. She lived in Washington. She knew these sites. She's run the historical societies and Library of Congress and really looked up things. So unfortunately, she had a stroke 2 days ago, and she can't be with us. So we wish her well, and we will give her all of this information, and she was extremely disappointed. We've made her an honorary Hitz, and I think she's very happy about that. So anyway, in the meantime, Campbell, would you come up and say what you would like? And would you mention the National Day that's this coming week?
Happy to do so,
If
yes.
you're around, you can go to.
Well, I'm really honored to be
visiting with you today. I can't believe the accomplishments and the heritage and the legacy that all these Hitzes are leaving behind them. And I'm especially happy to see some of the young people here. I hope they will take that to heart and not wait until they're my age to start being interested in family history. I hope they'll go back and try to continue this wonderful tradition that you have. I've been asked to just mention a few things about the Swiss community in Washington, and I feel kind of honored also to be able to carry on some of the traditions and the kind of things that I grew up with, carry it on here in Washington. We have a small community, but we try to stay together and help each other and so forth. I grew up in Bern, came here when I was 17, and I won't tell you how long ago that was. Interesting, as I hear some of these fascinating things that I had never known about. I knew about this stone that's in the Washington Monument, 190 feet up. 190 feet up. I knew about that. In fact, I should tell you where it's from. It's just above Interlochen, and if you're over there, there's a Findling. It's a Findling is a large rock that had been left as the glaciers withdrew, and it just dropped and was left there. And it's on the historic register, and I must admit that I have a piece of it. I was told not to do that, because if you go out, and it's out in the woods, it's all overgrown, but it's still there. And Judge Munter told me about that stone here for the first time. John Hitz must have really left a legacy behind him with the creation of the Swiss Benevolent Society. I'd like to just go through the 5 organizations that we have in Washington that try to keep on the tradition of Switzerland. The Swiss Club of Washington has about 250 members. We will have, as you just mentioned, the 1st of August celebration, national holiday, here on the grounds. We have that annually. Usually there's about 600 or 700 people that attend. Anybody's invited. You don't have to be invited. You just come. It's going to cost you a little in the good Swiss tradition. You're not going to get it for free. So you have the bratwurst as a meal. And we also have a band here, and there'll be normal talks and so forth. But it's a fun afternoon this year. It's on Saturday, a week from tomorrow. It starts at 3 o'clock. Don't come at 3, because wait till about 4 or 5 when it's a little cooler, hopefully. The Swiss Club also has various events. They have sometimes a Fasnacht, they go hiking. They have always a Christmas party right here in this hall with Santa Claus. At times they'll have a fondue. They try to have a fondue dinner once a year. The other group is the folklore group. That's a small group of about 20 people. They try to carry on Swiss dancing and yodeling. We have about 2 people that still can yodel. We also have one person that has an alphorn. And we have a couple of people that do some Fahneschwingen. You know, the fan waving the flags, Fahneschwingen. In fact, my son is one of them. We took him to Switzerland to one of the Yodeler Fests, and he made actually a good mark. And if you'd come on next Saturday, you will see them perform. Then the Stauffacherin that was just mentioned, that's Simone Schock. She is really, it's tragic that she's not here. She had really studied the Hitz family and their background for so long. And when I heard that she had this mild stroke a couple of days ago and is now in the hospital, it really saddened us all. And she would have, this was her event. And hopefully, are you taping this, I think?
Yes.
Where we could give her a tape. She would have, make her so much better. That's a ladies group that meets, they just basically support each other. A ladies group that meets once a month or maybe half a dozen times a year. They're always invited here at the residence once a year, hosted by the ambassador's wife. And the Stauffacherin, just as the Swiss Benevolent Society, was actually started under one of your forefathers, John Hitz. Then we have one other small group. They're the Swiss Rifles. They have they go shooting. They have shooting events about 4 or 5 times a year out on the outskirts of Washington here. And again, they have thanks to the Swiss taxpayers, they get their rifles from Switzerland, also the ammunition. They have tons of ammunition. And then lastly, the Swiss Benevolent Society. That's the one I was here to speak about mainly. I have a little red sheet here that I'll read some of them back there. Swiss Benevolent Society was founded in 1865. We were a membership organization where the Swiss who came here that needed help, they would extend help to each other. Frequently it was giving travel funds for them to, if they had financial problems, to get back to Switzerland. These were typically loans. They were asked to pay this back. And since then, the embassy is able to help people like this. And so the need for these kind of things have diminished over the years. I must say, when I was asked to be president, and that's too long ago, I looked at their little savings book, and the dues at the time were $3 a year. And I looked at it, and they hadn't really just collected interest. They hadn't been doing anything with their money. So after about a couple of years, we had our little board of directors. We decided that we would start a scholarship program. And so that's what we've been mainly doing over the last 20 years. We have a scholarship program, and to be eligible, you have to have at least one grandparent that was Swiss. You are Swiss, or you at least have one grandparent who's Swiss. Live in the Washington metropolitan area. And we also adopted this very tiny community of Helvetia, out in West Virginia. We're really just a crossroad. But there's a lot of Swiss people that are living there that came here, descendants of Swiss, I should say, came here in the mid-1800s and thought they were going to make big-time farming operations out in West Virginia. And when they started digging in the hills, they found it was rock and they couldn't really do anything. So most of them wound up working in coal mines. And we adopted that community. And we always have 1 or 2 people there that are youngsters that apply for the scholarship. When we started, I guess the bank account we had 20 years ago or so was maybe $30,000. We were able to build that up to about $120,000, except for last year, so financial crisis. And we've granted over $100,000 in scholarships over the years. Typically about 4 or 5 that we are able to award in the course of a year.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are they full scholarships or how partial scholarships?
Oh yeah, they're partial scholarships. Yeah, but they're any of these kind of amounts help with the high cost of education at this time. And a lot of the recipients tell us it has helped them kind of put that together and say, we get a scholarship from the Swiss Benevolent, and then somebody else will kick in and kind of helps build up their acceptance to apply for other scholarships. They're small. They're at most probably $5,000 might be the top. And then we have a few other things that we do as a benevolent society. We help Swiss in need. Fortunately, there are very few, but we have at times, we've had in the last 2 or 3 years, we've had some really very serious cases. And we're able to help them get over a financial hump. And that has been very satisfying. One of the things I kind of feel good about is hearing all what your family members have done over the years. I want to continue this tradition of the Benevolent Society. We're here to help each other. And that has been personally very satisfying to me, because at times some people thought, well, we should just get out of it and disperse the money and buy a little cottage or a little vacation place up in the Blue Ridge and so on. I didn't think that was the way to go. We are no longer a membership organization. We are just have a board of trustees that manage the funds and see what we can do to help our compatriots. So that's my story, and I should say that we have a list here of the past presidents, and there haven't been all that many. There's only been...
Excuse me, I do have one question.
Yes.
Are you, because the Benevolent Society is here, are you, like, do you work with any other Swiss organizations around the rest of the United States, or?
That's a good question. We had one time, I kind of, at my insistence or so, to get all the Benevolent Society groups together, and about 15, 20 years ago, we had a meeting right here in Washington. There are equivalent, similar organizations elsewhere. The big one, of course, is the one in New York, the New York Society, where they have managed, I think they have 2 or 3 staff people, social workers that try to support Swiss in that area. And then they manage the scholarship program, I guess the Pellegrini grant. And I think that was, Mr. Pellegrini was donated quite some funds to do that. And I think Philadelphia is working with them on that. But then there's similar in Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Diego, Stanford. There are other benevolence around. But we have literally hardly any contact, except at one time when we all met here to kind of exchange information among ourselves. We've had a dozen presidents so far, and Florine Hitz was the president from 1869 to 1873. Florine.
Can you spell that?
That's, unfortunately, we lost our secretary a few years ago. Had been the secretary of the Benevolent Society for a long time, and all her records are lost. And so, unfortunately, I cannot go back very far, except I'll leave that there, which shows that there's Florin, and he was John Hitz's son, is that correct?
Brother-in-law.
Yeah.
No, oh, Florian. No, but there's several that are Florian, and their names are in the register of the
There's one buried in the
cemetery. So
He's,
we'll try to connect.
I'll have the list here back there, and also, if any of you would like to pick up just a short description of the Benevolent Society, help yourself to that. And thank you very much for including me in this unbelievably interesting program.
May I just say what Florian a word?
Okay. And then we're going to pack up.
Florian, John Hitz the elder had a brother, Christian. And the brother Christian is the ancestor of the Conrad line. And Christian had a son, Christian, if I'm not mistaken. And he had a brother. And in my records, and I was talking to Susan Scholl, and suddenly things changed. He had a brother, and in my records it was of unknown name, who was the worthless son who got shipped off to America, you know. And somewhere else I had a record of Florian, born 2 years apart from Christian. You know, and I had no idea till I talked it through with Susan Scholl that was, you know, Florian was the brother, the younger brother of the Conrad, who had been shipped off and forgotten in among the Conrad people, sort of forgotten, who came to America and married his first cousin, Hitz.
Margaret, right?
Yeah, yes, married his first cousin Hitz here in America, and apparently more or less made good. No longer was the worthless son. But that's how the Conrad and the Hans lines got related.
There you go. Second time.
Good.
Yeah.
You did that. It's kind of
Right, the
strange.
second time.
Thank you very much for that. This concludes this program, and we're going to pack up and take a tour. We have a few things to put back together again. So why don't you all get up and finish your coffee and everything else?
No, not
Did you want to say
yet.
something?
I would like to
Oh,
take
Martin would like to
opportunity
say something.
to, well, there's probably lots of opportunities left for saying thank you and so forth, but since I've got a beamer here, I would like to show you only data projected, how we call it. Well, it's in German, but it says Klosters, what is it? Klosterser Zeitung. Klosterser Zeitung, so it's just a review of our first meeting in 2004. And there is another one. Oh no, you should, all of you should know this one, which is our. So, I'm happy to say that all of them are still alive. 5 years. And the Americans have kept their shape perfectly, except from the younger ones, who are bigger and taller. But it was it's really good to say that, because when Catarina Gonzalez and I met and said, well, we should do this bringing together the family, it was in year X, and in year X+1, she said, well, we better do it right now, because she's got her mother who is now around 90, my mother is now around 90, and at that time she said that we should hurry up so that the old people still are able to take part, and they did in part at least, and so all of them are still alive. What there's something else, yeah. And here you see Davos newspaper again. Oh, sorry. Again, reviewing the event, and I seem to recognize Betsy here, and you see back here. So they were all became very famous in Swiss newspapers. And I would like to say a few other things because I'm just here now. I might forget it, so I thank the crew led by Susan very much for doing the talk. And I think Betsy and Izzy and also June also worked a lot. And I completely forgot how complicated it was 5 years ago, of course. My short-term memory is short, and my long-term memory doesn't exist. But when I watched Susan getting nervous because things should be organized and so forth, I seem to remember how it was. and the great thing is that now I can just take part as a participant, which is much more fun, because you can talk to people and you can listen to them when they answer.
Yes.
Because in Davos I always talked, I pretended to talk to people, but then my mind was somewhere else. So I will like it this time much better. And Susan has also asked me if I had some prints of the family booklet left, which is not the case. But I started to kind of living document end of 2005, which I produced, taking the core of the last convention booklet, removing all the things that were just connected with the organization there, and asked other people to contribute to change the data. And I think Kate Quinones, how do you pronounce yourself?
Quinones.
Quinones was one of them who really sent me a few pages. And I have brought 5 copies. Well, one was taken back by Katharina. She said she needs to rehearse all the people, but so there's 4 copies left, and of course the thing is available in PDF also. And my idea was to, but it didn't work apparently, except for a few notable exceptions, was to have a living document that whenever something happens, people would, you know, marry and get children and so forth.
Yeah.
I would get the information to have this document grow. And I'm giving it up now, but no, I learned my lesson, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm promising here, and that I'm taking this information as an initial feed to a Hitz wiki. So the wiki has the advantage that everybody can contribute. So it's not the bottleneck of just one person doing all the triggering, collecting the information and so forth.
There you go.
So this is one thing, and yeah, I think all the other things I can say later. One thing is, last time it was the Conrads who did the organization. Fortunately, many Hanses and Christians also took part. In one way or the other, we lost the Christians, so we are only the 2 lines left. But I would like to show that there are a lot of Conrads here. So maybe you can just stand up, the ones that are not Hansens. Stand up. And, well, there are more. Yeah. You too. Okay. So we have, and now, please, the Europeans should sit down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, the ones that are living. So there are quite a few Hitzes in America that are not Hansens. So it's fine that we have the opportunity to meet again. Thank you very much.
So if you are ready, let's meet outside.